Now, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce our fabulous superintendent, Dr. Bernard Taylor, Jr.
There is something to be said for a prompt schedule. Good morning. And again, I'd like to thank all of you for giving up your early Saturday mornings and coming to the fourth annual State of Our Schools address. It's hard for me to believe that this is the fourth time that we have gotten together to talk about where we are with respect to our work in the school district and where we're going. But I am grateful that all of you think this is a worthy investment of your time, and I do hope that what we share with you this morning will again prove to be worthy of your time. Before I begin, I want to ask that each of you give consideration to attending Mindshare 2011. This event will be on Tuesday, April 26th at DeVos Place in the Steelcase Ballroom, starting at 5:30 p.m. Tickets are $100. And you can go to www.grsaf.org to get your tickets, to learn more, or to make a donation. And Susan Hartwell and Lynn Affendulis are here with us this morning from the Student Advancement Foundation, as well as Tempe Mann, so I know that everybody will want to participate in that event. It'll be a lot of fun. We have a lot of student artwork and other presentations that will be part of that, so please make sure you get your tickets for Mindshare. We also want to publicly recognize and thank all the individuals and organizations that do so much to support the district, our schools, our staff, our families, and our students. There are countless numbers of organizations and countless numbers of people who give tirelessly every day on behalf of our students, so we certainly want to acknowledge them and say thank you. I'm going to get all the thank yous of everybody on the face of the earth out of the way. So, to Mayor Hartwell, the city commissioners, the city of Grand Rapids, the Kent County commissioners, the Kent County staff, the Student Advancement Foundation, our state and federal lawmakers, and all our partners, the churches, the businesses, the nonprofits, the neighborhood associations, foundations, mentors, tutors, volunteers, parent action leaders, PTA members, and everyone in between. If I missed you, it was an omission of the head and not the heart. So thank everyone for everything that you do. I want to give particular thanks and praise to our teachers. And there are a number of very, very special teachers who I've had the pleasure of visiting their classrooms and working with their students. And one who does not want me to say anything publicly about this is sitting right in front of me. But I would be so remiss not to thank the teachers who work diligently, tirelessly with our students every day. There is no greater pleasure for me than to visit a classroom. And it's not the interaction that I have with students during that time, it's what I observed before and what I hear about after I leave that shows me that we have outstanding teachers who work diligently with our students every day. They make those children feel good about being in school. They challenge them to be the brightest they can be, and they help them do that. So I'm going to just do what you asked me to do, but just know from my heart to yours, I appreciate so much what you and your colleagues do. We need to say to all staff, particularly our administrators, our support staff, our security staff, our custodial staff, secretaries, paraprofessionals, food service workers, so many people do their very best every day. And in this time where people may not necessarily appreciate the hard work of people engaged in public education, because again, we see what's going on in the news and we hear what people think sometimes about our profession. But again, the tale of our work is when you see enthusiasm in a child's face, when you see that light come on and that child gets it, or when that child takes great pleasure in explaining to you, not only do I know what I know, but I want you to know what I know, then that's when you know people are doing all they can every day on behalf of our children. And there are so many people here, like our security staff, our youth advocates, our secretaries, all those people that sit over there who are in various role groups. They don't have to be here this morning. They don't have to be here. But they choose to be here because they believe that their work is important to the district, and it is, and they believe that their work is our work. And that's why I think we should give a round of applause to everyone who works so hard every day. Again, we all need to stand tall. We all need to steel our resolve about our work and about the value of our work, because it's not going to be because a politician or laws will change or budget cuts can ever take away the important role that we play. We are engaged in noble public service. We are engaged in noble public service. And we play a fundamental role in the city, in this state, and in this country. As educators, we do provide the gateway for opportunity and the gateway for success for young people every day. And people should not forget that. Every one of you is sitting here because a teacher, an administrator, or someone in a school invested in you, believed in you, and encouraged you to be the best that you could be. So no matter how daunting our times are, we all have to stay resolved that that's what we're going to do. That with everything we have to make sure that these young people believe that their futures can be bright. So we have a message that we need to make sure that our elected officials hear. We have a message that our community needs to hear. Because again, we are impacting students and their families, and we are proud to say that we can serve them well. Our district has been the poster child for right-sizing reforms, and I make no bones about that. We have led the way. We know what was said in 2008 in the Detroit News, where the Detroit News editorialized that GRPS is a model urban school district due to making significant financial right-sizing decisions, but at the same time improving dramatically education and educational results. Everyone knows we've cut $70 million out of our operating budget over the past 10 years. We've closed or consolidated more than 20 schools and programs. We've eliminated hundreds of jobs from top to bottom. We've privatized, downsized, right-sized, green-sized, econo-sized, slim-sized, and value-sized for the past 10 years. Okay? The 3 R's is now joined by the 4 C's: cut, consolidate, coordinate, and not collapse. So that's what we've been involved in over the past 10 years. We know that our employees have made significant sacrifices. Concessions in terms of wages and benefits have been the order of the day. We know that our teachers led the way because they were the first in the county and one of a small group statewide who agreed to concessions on health care. We know that that was difficult. We know that, again, it was an important thing to do, but we recognize that sacrifices have been shared and have been made. But on top of all that, despite all the cuts, closures, and belt tightening, we've also dramatically increased academic achievement. We've pretty much written a book on doing on how to do more with less. And I know that's true. For 5 consecutive years, we've increased the number of schools meeting adequate yearly progress. We're up from 26 back in 2006 to 49. And short of our alternative schools, every school in the district is meeting AYP. All 4 high schools, I mean, you can see how proud Ottawa Hills is of this accomplishment, met AYP for the first time. And 3 schools, Ottawa Hills, Crescent, and Central, met AYP for the 2nd year in a row and were dropped from the state's watch list. All middle schools combined met AYP for the first time. We've quadrupled the number of schools receiving a B or better on the state's Ed Yes report. We only had 7 schools that had that status in 2006, and now 27 schools have achieved that status. Since 2005, our MEP scores have increased across the board at every grade level tested in grades 3 through 8 in math, science, and reading, with few exceptions. Now, this is what this district has accomplished. This is what all staff has helped us to accomplish. This is what teachers have done, what principals have done, what our support staff have done, and what our parents and students have done. And we need to celebrate our students. We need to make sure that they know that we believe that they are capable, that they are achieving, and that they will continue to do so. But that's not all we've done. There's a lot more. And we're going to just go through all of these things because look at what we've accomplished. Look at what our students have accomplished. Look at what our community has helped us to accomplish. Okay, we have students for the first time in 10 years making the state finals in diving, in wrestling. So you can look and see what our students are achieving, even in these times of declining resources. And we have other things that we can look at too. So again, we have a lot that we need to be proud of and a lot that we can articulate publicly as successes in terms of what everyone is doing in the district. Now, we've got everyone's attention about the good news. And we have a lot that we can celebrate. But now we have to talk about what our new reality will be. Because again, as we tout our successes, we also have to acknowledge our challenges. So, let's get on to this because I think that's what you're here to hear and what we need to be focused on as we go forward. This fall, the state is going to reset cut scores for academic testing, which will send more than 60% of our schools back to square one, meaning that many of the schools that are meeting AYP today, this time next year will not be. And we already know that. So we are going back to the beginning. We are going back to square one because these schools under this new system of assessment will not be making AYP. Now this is difficult to tell you, it's difficult to hear, because again, it could seem to some that it's going to negate all of our hard work, all the gains we've made. And how can we come this far and go through so much and then find ourselves right back where we started from a few short years ago? Now, this might mean that our task is going to be daunting, and it may mean that we need to be afraid. But I think that what we need to do is embrace this as a challenge, just as we did back in 2006. That if this is the game we have to play, then we need to play to win. And so I think that what we have to figure out is we have to look at what we do well. What we do well is we know how to use data well. We know how to assess our progress with respect to observing what's going on in the classroom. We know how to provide quality support. We have probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, curriculum support team in this county. And I'm looking at 3 people right in front of me who are very instrumental. And if Lynn Woods was sitting with you other 3, then I know we have 4 wildly talented people. Where's Lynn Woods? Because Lynn Woods sends the best emails about what she's doing. But again, I'm looking at Malika Brown, Bill Smith, and Malonge Kalambula, and I know those 4 people work tirelessly to provide excellent curriculum support to teachers, principals, and everyone. So we have the right people in place. This is not a point of concern for me about being able to provide the support for teachers and principals. I have to thank Mrs. Lanier for her vision and for her persistence about the district developing a strategic plan. Now, Mrs. Lanier, as my immediate supervisor, can be very tenacious about certain things. And she and Ms. Geetson have impressed upon me the importance of strategic planning and taking people on a journey. So we will be engaged in that, but Mrs. Lanier and Shea Newquist, who I did see come in, where's Ms. Newquist? Because I did see her come in. They shepherded an excellent strategic planning process, and that involved former Deputy Chief of Police James Ferris, and countless numbers of steering committee members, many who are here this morning, because again, our strategic plan gives us a direction that is quite easy to follow. So Mrs. Lanier, to you, the members of the board, Ms. Newquist, Deputy Chief Ferris, and everyone who served on the strategic planning committees, you should be applauded too for again, providing us with a quality blueprint. Now, the next step is for us to convene task forces to operationalize the strategic plan. And we're going to meet and develop measurements and metrics for assessing our progress on the plan of creating our own data dashboard that will be publicly available and easy for all to see and understand. These task forces will be meeting in April and May, And our board president has asked that the recommendations be completed by June 1st. So this is an ambitious timeline, but we're going to move expeditiously to make sure that that goal is reached. The bottom line is that we do have a proven track record, a well-tested foundation, and a comprehensive new strategic plan that will help us overcome any new challenges that we will overcome. I know we're all up for the task. We've done it before, we'll do it again. But this time, with this second chance, this gives us all a new beginning to allow us to learn from what we've accomplished and to learn what we did right and what we need to do better with our reform efforts. And we need to all move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and the common goal being all students will achieve. All students who enter our doors will achieve. Now, we have some things that we're going to get off the ground quick, fast, and in a hurry, but with the due diligence that's needed to make sure that they're done correctly. We need to say that with these new cut scores, they're not a bad thing. We just can't be afraid of that. Because what it says is we want the community to have a clear sense of what it takes for students to be academically ready when they graduate. Now, this is an important point. This is a very important point because people view graduation from high school as a major accomplishment. And again, schools are rated as dropout factories if a sufficient number of students don't graduate in 4 years. Well, I think we have to reject that because, quite frankly, graduating from high school is no different than a few years ago when people finished the 8th grade. It is not a precursor of anything. If you are not college ready or workforce ready, meaning you have to have pronounced academic skills in the areas of literacy, mathematics, problem solving, and being able to work cooperatively with others. Now, whether you do that on a college campus or in the world of work, the bottom line is this. Graduating from high school, whether it takes you 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, is nothing but a preparation for the next step, which must be for our students, a recognition that they must, not it would be nice, not we hope, but they must persist to do something beyond high school. So our expectation must be now that all of our students will be prepared to either go to community college or a four-year institution or engage in some type of job or workforce training as soon as they finish high school. So what we need to look at is that in our school district, just as all across the country, too many children are leaving school with a diploma, but they are not college or workforce ready. Part of that is that we say you need X number of credits to graduate. We need to say you need X number of credits plus you need these competencies in order to say that you are academically ready for the next matter in your life. So we know that we're judged by test scores and AYP results and mandated four-year graduation rates. But again, none of these things mean anything. They're meaningless if our children are not academically ready for a career or college after high school. So we need to assess this. We need to ask ourselves whether or not students are academically ready, whether they're competent, literate, and ready for life after high school. We have to ask ourselves, why do students have to finish school in 4 years? You get 7 years or 10 years to get a doctorate. So why is it that 4 years is magic for a high schooler? We have to stop assuming or stop thinking that just because kids enter kindergarten at age 5, that everybody is entering with the same requisite skills to be successful. We know our children do not start school all on the same page at the same point in the starting line. We know that's not true. 85% of our students who start kindergarten with us are at least a year or more behind. We know that. Now, if you went to Forest Hills, you would probably see that the percentages are the opposite of that. We're probably, I'd say, dear close to 90% of their students or above are ready for kindergarten. But if you look at things like our graduation rate data. Now, again, if you look at our 4-year data, and we wanted to make sure you see these things. Look, though, as students have more time, what happens? At Ottawa Hills, 61.1% of students need 4 years or graduate in 4 years. But if they're given more time, you see what happens. So those students who entered ninth grade at the same time, if they're given more time, close to 86% of those students at least finish high school. But again, look at our alternative schools because it bears itself out that with more time you can graduate more students. Now, we're not saying that these numbers are acceptable, but we're penalized to some degree when students don't finish in 4 years, even though we know with more time these students do persist to at least graduate from high school. So what we have to do is look at what are we going to do about this. What I'm proposing is that we create an academic readiness task force. Now, it will be comprised of teachers, school leaders, parents, and educational experts, and members of the community. But we need to develop recommendations on how we assess academic readiness and what steps can be taken to make sure that all students are academically ready. Questions for this task force will be, should there be grade-level exit assessments to determine basic competency and literacy skills that will demonstrate that the student is ready to move to the next grade? Should we expect students to demonstrate college or career readiness, as well as meet credit requirements in order to earn a high school diploma? So you can earn a certificate of completion, but if you want to achieve a high school diploma, are you going to have to demonstrate more competency? Should Saturday school and after-school tutoring be mandatory? Meaning through board policy, if you are not meeting the standards, will it be mandatory for you to participate? Now, John, I want you to put up this next slide because this is what we need to be paying attention to in terms of the racial achievement gap. I want you to look at how students are performing at the third grade level. And you can see exponentially that we have increased achievement by third grade, which means that if you look at that last statistic, it shows you that 88% of students on the MEP reading test, 88% of third graders, and these you can see the various categories. It's 74%. I'm looking at this at an angle, so is it 85%, 88%? But you can see that there is a narrowing of the racial achievement gap in reading by subgroup at the third grade level. And you can see consistently since 2005 that has been the case. Now, as you look beyond the third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, so on, you see that gap starts to widen significantly. So we need to embrace and assess and strategize about why this happens and what we're going to do about it. I know that when we start talking about issues about race and class, people are very, very uncomfortable. I've been told that I discuss these things at my own professional peril. Well, I have to say this, so be it. Because it's time that we look at why this happens. And let me say this, discussions of matters like this are not indictments of people's character, competence, compassion, or concern. This is a question of practice. We see it happening. We know it exists, and we can figure out why and correct the problem. But if we are afraid to talk about it, this will continue, and our children are not achieving because of it. I don't care who we put in front of our children, as long as we put the best, the brightest, the most committed, and people who are willing to see the work through from beginning to end. Our children deserve the chance to be successful. And it is going to mean that each and every one of us is going to have to hold a mirror up in front of us and ask, what is my role in this? Not what should Mrs. Evans do? Not what should Mr. Atkins do? Not what Mrs. Freiberger should do, but what should I do every day to make sure that this problem dissipates? Because if we're all reflective about what we do, if we're all reflective about that, then what you're going to see is that people will come and say, I need help with this, or can we try this, or should we stop doing this? But the bottom line is, our reality is reflected in these statistics. We are a district that serves poor children, some of which who do not speak English as their native language, some who come from homes that have problems that many of us know nothing about. But here's the bottom line. These children come to school, and they come to school wanting to learn. And our collective responsibility is to make sure that they do. And we have to take our blinders off, we have to set our fears to the side, and we have to say, what are we going to do? The people in Japan right now are not arguing about whose fault it is that they're in the situation that they're in because of the tsunami. They're trying to figure out, the tsunami happened, what are we going to do to improve this condition so people can get back to their normal lives? And John is probably saying, I am off script, so, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. Another piece for this academic readiness group is to look at school climate. And school climate is an important ingredient in looking at how we improve academic outcomes. We will be starting a kickoff. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we also need to be talking about student expectations, parent expectations. And let me say this. We spend a lot of time talking about parent involvement and parent engagement. We spend a lot of time talking about that. And I know we all have a view about what that is. But you know what parents have to do first and foremost? Get your child to school, get them there on time, and get them there in the mindset of being ready to learn. Those are the three things we need parents to do first and foremost. Now, if you come and volunteer, you are the PTA mom, the homeroom dad, you go on every field trip on the face of the earth, that's wonderful. That's icing on the cake. But what we need you to do is have your child in school every day on time with a mindset to be ready to learn. And beyond that, everything else will take care of itself. So again, if this academic readiness task force is going to take up these challenges, and they're going to come back with tough recommendations for all of us. But some of these things are going to need a policy directive from the board, Mrs. Lanier. So I'm hoping you and your colleagues will be ready to take up this challenge about how we look at what it is we will say will be the way that we conduct business so that our students are academically prepared and ready for the next matter in their life. Second, we are going to create acceleration academies. Now, acceleration academies are going to be for motivated high school students. So we're starting with those who will be incoming ninth graders, because what we want them to do is to have a clear pathway to begin earning college credits before they leave high school. We want them to either earn enough college credits, again, to gain advanced standing, whether they go to community college or a four-year institution, and possibly earn an associate's degree. We believe that these acceleration academies have to have a relationship with our local colleges and universities, and we're going to be meeting with Dr. Ender from GRCC to discuss how we can work cooperatively to make sure that these acceleration academies come to full fruition beginning next year. We want to seek another partnership with GRCC and other higher education institutions and receive a waiver from the State Department of Education to establish a new college readiness opportunity where GRPS will continue to educate students for up to 2 years after the mandated four-year graduation time, with the goal of ensuring that students are college ready. We know that students are going to community college and sometimes entering universities where they're spending too much time and money on remedial courses. Now, let me explain to you why this is a problem. Many students are Pelling out. That means that their Pell Grant eligibility runs out before they finish college because they have to use their Pell Grant money to pay for remedial courses in order to catch up. Now, many of these remedial courses are not credit earning courses. So they're in college, they're taking courses, but they're not earning credits for them. Then they Pell Grant out, which then means they either quit, or if they don't quit, they've given up. And in some instances, some students, unfortunately, have signed up for classes and then withdraw and keep the money. Well, again, that's something that we need to be addressing because these students can be educated up until the age of 20. We can remediate these students. Now, if we do what we need to do on the front end, fewer students will need to be remediated on the back end. But if, in fact, that needs to be the case, we need to hold on to them. I've had this conversation with Dr. Ender to ask him, would this be something that you would support, or is this something that you would have concern about? And he indicated to me that if we do work collaboratively around this, it will help GRCC and other institutions like GRCC because students will be better prepared. So again, what we have to do is look at utilizing time better and asking the state to say, if we say that a student is not ready, can we hold on to that student? Can we be reimbursed for providing services for that student? But at the end of the day, we'll be able to say that that student is able to enter college without the need for remediation and without the need for spending money on remedial courses. So again, this is a point that we're going to start working on aggressively to make sure that, again, we get the requisite permissions from everyone so that we can start this process to better help students. Now, this is going to mean a culture shift for parents, too, because I know people live for the prom and renting a limousine to bring their child to graduation. I know people live for that. But I don't care when graduation occurs. If we can educate you until you're the age of 20 where it is of no cost to a family, then what we have to orient people's minds to is it doesn't matter when you go to the prom. It matters that you're ready for college or work. And so we have to change people's mindsets because I know that people are probably going to run for the hills now because they're going to say, I know what the headlines will be. Grand Rapids Public Schools is going to hold on to kids to the bitter end just for money. Okay? That's not true. So get it right. All you in the back, get it right. I don't see anybody writing anything. Okay? We are holding on to students to better prepare them, but from an economic standpoint, increase the likelihood that they'll persist and complete an associate's or get a 4-year degree. Now, that's what you can write down, and I still don't see anybody writing it. Okay. We need to look at positive behavior intervention work, and we have our kickoff this Monday, March 28th from 4 to 6 at the Kroc Center. And the work that we've done around positive behavior intervention and support, because it's been piloted in many schools and has yielded very, very tangible results, we believe every school and students at all grade levels need to be engaged in this work. And positive behavior intervention and support is a nice, fancy way of saying that there are expectations, there are ways that we help people reach expectations, and there are ways that we celebrate students when those expectations are met. That happens in classrooms. That happens in classrooms already. So this says that it will happen in every classroom. And what could be wrong with that? What is wrong with children feeling good about being in school and knowing what's expected, but being shown the way to meet those expectations without fear of punishment or reprisal or character tearing down? What's wrong with this? So I encourage everyone to join us this Monday, March 28th from 4 to 6 at the Kroc Center to learn more about this, because I think it will pay huge dividends for us in the short term and in the long term. So we know that these are the things that we have to do. We also need to look at more flexibility to ensure that our innovative school reform models are able to reach their full potential. We know that building the right team and maintaining stability and cohesiveness around the right school reform models is core to the success of our schools. Our budget crisis has led to frequent and sometimes large district-wide layoffs that have created much displacement and disruption. It seems like every other year we are forced to issue layoffs and completely reshuffle the decks of teachers and support staff in schools, classrooms, and grades based on the individual's tenure and seniority. Grand Rapids University Prep Academy, our very first center of innovation, is an example of this problem. The purpose of our Centers of Innovation process is to foster public-private partnerships in order to develop innovative new school choices based on proven research and successful school models. These schools are predominantly established as pilot schools with different work rules, different job descriptions and expectations, such as extended instructional time, additional professional development and training, and more collaborative planning time. Grand Rapids U-Prep is based on the Detroit U-Prep School, an independent charter school with a proven model that has produced a 90% plus graduation rate and a 90% plus post-secondary enrollment rate. The model is simple. Keep class sizes small, at around 18:1, establish teachers as advisors who remain with a class or cohort of students over multiple grade levels, build relationships with the students and families, and deepen the students' knowledge of content so that it enhances the students' academic readiness. U-Prep was originally planned as an independent charter school and was positioned to open as such. And that's something that I learned on my second day in working here in Grand Rapids. But the district has been able to work with the U-Prep founders and spent a considerable amount of time outlining why it is best for the school to operate within the framework of the Grand Rapids Public Schools. This whole process led to the development of our Centers of Innovation process, and in 2008, U-Prep opened as a GRPS pilot school, beginning with grades 6 and 7. Now, the district did everything that it was supposed to do in order to make sure that this school opened in a way that was consistent with the vision of those who founded it. It's been a school that has been successful. And a lot of time, community partnerships, money, and extra effort has gone into making sure that U-Prep is working the way that it is intended. But it has been impacted by things such as our financial situation and the fact that we have, from time to time, had to have layoffs of staff. After its first year, U-Prep, all their teachers were displaced, and only 2 returned for the next year. The model that students, parents, teachers, and staff came together to form was disrupted and broken really before it even had a chance to grow up and get going. And this has happened with other schools, such as our School of Health Science at Central, Grand Rapids Montessori, and other specialized programs that we've had. Now, as we look at what we face in terms of our financial situation, we may face the likelihood of another round of layoffs, where, again, this disruption will displace some of the teachers who, again, have bought into the mission and vision of what schools like U-Prep represent. So it is time for the legislature and our governor to grant school districts limited surgical tools to be able to protect our reforms and our innovative school models, and to protect our students and staff and parents from any more disruption. Now, legislation has already been drafted, but there is no time for us to wait. So I'm asking that the governor and the legislature move to pass the necessary reforms that are needed to protect reform. And again, it needs to be limited and strategic, and it needs to be tied to schools that have been persistently failing. We need to make sure that our partners, such as those affiliated with Grand Rapids University Preparatory Academy, Spectrum Health, Amway, Rockford, Chrisman, and our other partners who have gotten involved in our Centers of Innovation work know that their work will be able to move forward. The reform initiatives that they have been engaged in, that work will continue. And it is not going to be with a different set of individuals who we have to start and stop with all the time, but it will be with those who have bought into the mission and vision of the school initially. This legislation needs to recognize that those who are tenured, those who are most senior, should always be given the right of first refusal. Always. But when that right of first refusal is given, and when people pass on being in a reform situation, those who step up to the plate and say, I want to be part of this vision, I want to move this program forward. I want to make sure that these children are successful. Those individuals should have the right to stay regardless of tenure or seniority. We cannot be in the business of ensuring that people stay in a job. We have to be in the business of making sure that children are educated by those who are committed to making sure that they're successful. Our partners are not going to continue to invest their time and money in processes that they know may not lead to the outcome that they have decided to invest in. Now, I realize that this is a change, a sea change in how schools are operated. I realize that this will create a great deal of discomfort for people. But again, we have to look at what our challenge is, and that is academic achievement and services provided to students and families that will make them want to be a part of our district. Parents don't really care about tenure and seniority. What they care about is their child being taught and taught well. So that's what I think we need to focus on, and that's what we need to make sure that our legislature understands. Last year, we tackled a difficult budget situation with some bold, innovative, out-of-the-box, and not so politically popular initiatives aimed at achieving cost savings while maintaining or improving access to high-quality programming. I mean, it was funny, we were in a meeting yesterday, and there were so many of the school districts around that table who said, we do blended instruction, but we do it in a backdoor way because we just didn't want to have the kind of problems that you had. So I find that interesting, but imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So again, we'll take that one. We know full well that the challenges of implementation and the dedication and training that are necessary to smoothly and successfully launch these initiatives can be impacted in ways that sometimes we didn't anticipate. When the state dropped its early retirement incentive, this led to the single largest exodus of talent and experience that this district has ever experienced. Nearly 400 staff members retired. So again, it did impact our implementation of our blended learning model and other things that we put out for our students for next year. We've had successes with this implementation, and we're going to continue with the utilization of that model because, again, students are saying that this is working for them. And as adults and as professionals, we have to figure out ways to make it better. So we are going to continue with utilizing blended learning, but we're going to make some changes with it. Principals have recommended, support staff have recommended, teachers have recommended, and students have recommended that we move from a 3-day blended rotation to a 2-day blended rotation. So we're going to look at the practicality and feasibility of that and move to make sure that as we move from 3 days to 2 days, that the key reason for why this is being recommended, so that teachers and students have additional time and opportunity to build relationships with students, that becomes the reason why we move in this direction. We're going to adjust the start times of our elective hubs. Our elective hubs for music, for the performing arts, for the visual arts, and the other hubs we have, they're created to make sure that all students have access to quality programming. We know we do not have the financial resources to ensure that all schools have a junior philharmonic like City Middle High. That's the gold standard for us. We know we do not have the resources to do it, and in some instances, we don't have the capacity to do it. So until that day happens, we have to make sure that all students have access to quality. The students at Ottawa should be able to do more than have a drum line. They should be able to be part of a junior philharmonic just as the students at City do. So again, we're going to look at the elective hubs. We're going to adjust the start times and end times because we want to make sure that the time we do have with students is used to best effect. Now, art and music I know is a big, big issue because board meeting after board meeting, we have impassioned pleas about the need for looking at art and music in our district. Again, our resources will not allow for us to do anything more than we are currently doing with art and music. It will be maintained. So no one is going to make any recommendations to cut art or music. So we need to make sure that that's clearly articulated. But across the country, district after district has done just that. And I think it's much to the credit of our Board of Education that we have not done that. But because we cannot do more in art and music does not mean that we can't ensure that, again, students have access to quality art and music experiences, whether or not they emanate at school. So what we are going to do is recommend that we create an art and music task force. Now, I've asked Susan Hartwell and Lynn Affendulis and reached out to Dwayne and Kay Davis, Josie Guion. We're going to ask Burton teacher Sonia Schultz, who has really kept this issue at the board's attention, and we're going to ask others. I'm also going to ask that Mrs. Lanier appoint Board Secretary Wendy Faub to represent the board on this task force. But the charge will be to look at ways to increase access for students around quality music and art programs that, again, can be in the community. One of the greatest resources for music education for me has been the church. And again, when you can get expert music instruction, which I receive every Thursday at New Hope Baptist Church under the tutelage of Lamar James, again, those are resources that are free, that are accessible to everyone, but people may not know about them. So what I would ask is that everyone in the community look at ways where we can increase access for students, making sure that the ballet, the symphony, the opera, and other community-based organizations that are tireless about the importance of the arts, that people know that those resources are available and people know how to tap into them, and that if there are ways for the Student Advancement Foundation and other organizations to facilitate that work so that students and families have better access, that we look at those types of things. These are the types of partnerships that we're going to have to rely upon during these tight budget times because, again, public-private partnerships will be the gateway for this. Everyone is concerned about making sure that students have a well-rounded education. I know what a difference art and music has made for me. I very vividly remember some of the special times that I had in school as a result of participating in quality art and music programs. But I also know that I had to seek the opportunity, and my parents had to make sure that the opportunities were there for me and my brothers so that we developed this appreciation. So that's what I hope that this task force will do, because again, we do not have the resources, and I'm not going to choose between art, music, and phys ed. We shouldn't have to make that choice, because this community has an abundance of riches where the arts are concerned. I mean, and if you look at everything attached to Art Prize, you know that's true. Now, so we're going to look at academic readiness, art music, reducing the racial achievement gap, and looking at, again, all the things that we need to do to build on the successes we've already achieved. But our most daunting task is to look at our financial situation. Now, we knew this day was coming. We knew it was coming. And you know that again, our resources are such that we are at a point where our budget situation is going to be a significant factor as we attempt to look at how we move forward. Again, you can look at all the types of things that we're faced with. The governor's proposed cuts mean a $470 per pupil cut, which is the equivalent of $5.6 million. But what we need to be paying attention to are the categorical cuts, because these categorical cuts, and you can see where they are, impact districts disproportionately who serve the student population that we serve. Small class sizes, special education, bilingual services. These cuts total $8.52 million. So you can do the math and see what we're up against. And this is in addition to the budget deficit that we have as a result of increasing healthcare costs, retirement costs, salary adjustments, and things of that nature. So again, we know that the school aid fund is going to be used, at least $500 million, which will be distributed among colleges and universities. We have to be concerned about, as an urban school district, about that these cuts disproportionately seem to be impacting us. So what are we going to do? In 2 years, the governor's 2-year budget projection shows that the school aid fund will be wiped out. So again, we are at a point where we can no longer look to cuts and shared sacrifices being the way to look at how we solve our budget problems. What is being proposed by the governor is not a shared sacrifice. Disproportionately, it is falling on school districts like ours. Again, our governor, and our governor has a very, very difficult task. He has a very difficult task. So I don't want anybody to think that in any way, shape, or form that what I'm saying is in opposition to what our governor finds as his task. Governor Snyder is doing a noble work himself. I certainly don't know why anybody would want to be an elected official during this time period. So my hat does go off to anybody who is governor, senator, a representative, board member, city commissioner, because I don't know why anybody would want to do this. But if we are talking about shared sacrifice, we still have to talk about investment. And education is an investment in our children's future. We have to make sure that, again, whatever we do to restart the economy, it is not done on the backs of children. And investing in education is about economic development, workforce development, and positioning Michigan for the future. We need our governor and our lawmakers to hear from us. Now, I will say this. We have been invited. Last week, we were invited to speak before the Senate Appropriations Committee. Invitations have also been extended by the House Appropriations Committee. So we're going to tell our story about what we've done and how what is being proposed will disproportionately impact our students, our schools in this city. On our website at www.grpublicschools.org, we're asking everyone to contact the governor and our lawmakers, whether or not the lawmaker represents our district or not, to talk about how GRPS will be impacted and how urban districts like ours are facing double hits. Look at what you can do. And all of this is here. Pick up the phone, write a letter, sign up for the community office hours of your legislators, go to Lansing, send an email, but don't wait. Don't wait. Do it now. And point out to the legislature that there have to be other ways. Point out to the governor that there has to be other ways that we can look at how these cuts can be done in a more equitable way. This is about what we all have to do. It's about the city and the future of West Michigan. So we all have to take action today. In May, we will bring budget recommendations to the Grand Rapids Board of Education. And we have to talk about what we're going to do to address our $25 million shortfall. Now, even if we eliminated all these things, yellow bus transportation, athletics, even if we required all employees to pay 20% for health care, even if we froze all pay and step increases, not even half of the budget shortfall would be addressed. Look at the potential of how many jobs we may have to cut to balance the budget. And that's just at a minimum. So again, we have to look at the fact that many of the things that that the governor has asked us to do, we've already done. And we've been doing. But even if you did all of this, it still would not address significantly our budget deficit. So what we have to do is ask for legislative relief in some areas around health care and retirement. And we need to make sure that our lawmakers understand the significance of that. Now, in order to make sure that we recognize that there is room for us to make adjustments in our work at the central office and administrative levels, all GRPS administrators are going to be required to contribute 20% towards their own health care. Currently, they are paying 10%, and I pay 15%. So every administrator will be paying 20%. We are going to make cuts at the central office level, where certain offices are going to be eliminated, repurposed, or realigned, and I believe that we can achieve about $300,000 in savings doing that, and we're still looking for more. We may have to look at wage freezes for everyone, unless revenue conditions change. We are asking that we are going to look for other ways to save money, to share costs, and to collaborate with other school districts around how we can look for ways where we can mutually save money. We know that with our friends from the Kent ISD, We're going to continue to manage center-based special education services for every school district in the county. Now, again, that's an example of consolidation and collaboration. We're going to continue to provide food service for these Grand Rapids Public Schools, Grand Rapids Christian Schools, and some Grand Rapids Catholic schools. And we're going to look for other opportunities with charter schools and other public school systems to do a similar type of service. We manage public safety training, and we do that for several public schools and private schools. We're going to continue to do that. And there is revenue potential, not a lot, but there's some for us to utilize those training manuals that we produce and the training series that we provide as a way to gain revenue. We're going to do that. We have to look at other ways to consolidate and collaborate. We are doing that. Mrs. Lanier convened a meeting of her board president colleagues from around the county, and we're going to continue those meetings to look at possible ways where we can share ideas and share ways to work better to coordinate services. So we are going to do all of these things because we are a leader in providing many services that we can provide for other entities, particularly our charter school friends and our private school friends. But again, even with what we're trying to do to make sure that we show taxpayers that we are doing everything we humanly can to make sure that every dollar we have is used to best effect, we still need help. We have to look at ways to protect reform and protect innovation. We have to look at ways to gain ideas from staff about how we can be more efficient. Lisa Freiberger, our Deputy Superintendent for Finance and Operations, sent an email to every employee to get ideas, and we received ideas coming from Burton School to turn down the heat, turn off the lights, turn off computers, and to post signs for energy efficiency. A counselor from Creston suggested we establish email accounts for all students to reduce the cost of printing and mailing as we try to increase communications with parents. A teacher from Sherwood suggested we stop printing paychecks and use direct deposit. A special education therapist suggested we eliminate the state mandate for special education for students aged 21 to 26, noting that the service is more respite care than education, something that the community mental health department could easily manage. And I know that's controversial, but again, you see that people are trying to figure this out and are receptive to giving their ideas. So we're going to do more of that. We're going to be asking all staff for ideas about what each employee can do to be more efficient and to elevate their performance so that everyone can get to that highest level of performance and use that as a way for us to save money and to be more efficient. John Helmholtz is going to create a web-based portal for thoughts and suggestions so that we continuously look at efficiency, cost savings, and innovation. And again, we will probably convene people regularly to look at how those topics stay first and foremost on all of our minds. We know that every penny counts and that no idea is too big or too small. So again, because we have this history of looking at outside of the box thinking to solve our problems, and we know that outside of the box thinking can emanate from any source, we're going to make sure that all employees have that kind of access to share that information. Again, we have to look at making sure we hold on to students. Our upcoming budget will be premised on a student loss of no more than 400 students. But if we get out there and pound the pavements and tell our story and work hard and enlist parents and other community members to tell the positive stories about our schools, we may be able to reverse that or maybe not even sustain that type of loss. If every elementary school in the district served 20 additional students, we could completely eliminate at least $3 million of our shortfall. Now in April, on April 14th, Friday, April 14th, and Saturday, April 16th, we will be hosting our annual First Parade of Schools, and every school in the district will be open to the public. But this is an opportunity to spread the word and take part in our citywide student recruitment and retention campaign. So there are Parade of Schools brochures that are available for you as you leave, and we want you to visit our website and share the link to the Parade of Schools to your friends and family and neighbors and anybody else via email, Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media you use. Because again, we have to hold on to the students that we have to attract others, and we have quality programming that can be used as a basis to do that. Again, the more that we get students to stay with us, the better able we're able to manage our financial situation. So I hope that people will take advantage of the Parade of Schools opportunity. And again, you see the dates. So we have a lot to do. The state of our schools is strong. Do we have challenges? Of course we do. But we can't be afraid. We can't show any trepidation about what our situation is, because in the end, whether we have $1 billion or we have $1, children have to be educated. And let's face it, people have faced tougher times than these. Very few of us lived during the Depression. Very few of us. But people endured and they overcame. People have endured much more hardship than any of us will ever know in our lifetimes. Now, we can sit here and wring our hands and say, poor pitiful us, woe is us, what are we going to do, what are we going to do? Or we can roll up our sleeves, join hands, and work together to solve these problems. Are we always going to agree? Of course not. Are we always going to be right? No. Well, I am, but no. No, we're not always going to be right. But if we stay motivated and keep the face and heart of a child in front of us, then we'll make the right decisions. We will make the right decisions. The right decision now is to do all we can every day to make sure children learn and to set the stage for them to be effective in doing so. And we can do that. Now, if we work together, if we educate our legislators about the consequences of their actions, if we tell our story and tell our story in ways that show what we've done with the resources that we have, if we prepare ourselves for our new challenges that are going to be based on a new academic reality, and if we come up with the solutions, the practices, and the procedures that allow us to successfully address those things, then this time next year we'll be saying, you know, our task was daunting. The horizon had gray clouds over it, but guess what? Not only are we standing, we're thriving. Now, in times of challenge, that's when people steal their resolve. And that's what I hope you've done this morning. Those of you who work for the district, you need to start stealing your resolve. That you will do better. Not it would be nice, not I hope, but you will do better. You will do more, even if it is with less. Because at the end of the day, someone's child's life is impacted by what you do. How many of you have children of your own? Or how many of you have children that you love? Love more than your own life? I should see everybody's hand raised, right? Mrs. Johnson, you don't? Thank you. I should see everybody's hand raised. Okay. Those of you who have school-age children, when you send those children to school, do you send them with trepidation? Do you send them with a fear that, I don't know that these people care about my child. I don't know that they're invested in my child's education success. I hope they are. Most people send their children to school believing that the people that will be there to receive them care about them and want the best for them. Our parents have to feel the same way. Our parents deserve to feel the same way. Our parents should expect us to feel that way. Now, if you don't, we'll help you. We will professional develop you to the fullest extent of our resources. And at the end of the day, we think that you are up to the task. But if you do feel that way, then make sure others around you feel that way. Because really, you know what this work is? This work is probably 10% professional knowledge. You have to know your content, know how to teach. But it's 90% care, concern, and compassion. And some of the most average students who became teachers become the most outstanding teachers because they master that care, concern, and compassion thing. So much so that they energize students to believe in possibilities that even the student didn't believe could come true. That's what I want us to do. Energize possibilities. Energize students to believe that I can do anything. The theme of SAF is, I believe I can fly. And they have the nerve to want to ask me to sing something that's part of that. So thank you for bringing that surprise on me. Okay, where's Kurt Johnson at? Because he could sing the whole song for you and do it quite well. But I think the bottom line for all of us is GRPS is a tough, resilient, fine institution that does good work. And yeah, here, say that again. GRPS also is supported by wonderful community partners. Some who run multi-billion-dollar operations but thought it was important to be here in a high school mall to hear this. And that says a lot. It's guided by a Board of Education that doesn't get its just due. It is guided by a Board of Education that does not get its just due. I don't know that people appreciate how hard your work is, but how gracefully you do it. And that's all of you, individually and collectively. You gracefully do your work. And to the cast that more than ably supports me, you prove your worth daily. You prove your specialness to me personally in ways that you will never know, never know. And I am grateful to each of you, individually and collectively, just because you're here. Your talent could take you anywhere, and for some, their talent is going to take them to other places. But you honed your craft here, and we're sending you out to do good stuff because I know you're prepared to do it. So I'm wildly blessed and fortunate that we're here together as a team, and I don't want to work with any other group of people more so than I love working with each of you. So, I mean, individually and collectively, you mean the world to me. You do, you know, you do. If I could pay you all $1 billion, I would. So, I know we didn't go too far over, John. It's 10:17. So, and I went off script, so, you know, John is back there. He's pulled out his hair and probably wants to hit me with something. I want to thank everybody who helped make this possible. I mean, Tara Reedberg, this will be her last State of the Schools address as an employee, but Julie Anderson, this was her first one, and Julie is my assistant, and Julie, short of my own mother, worries about me more than anybody else. So Julie, thank you so much just for helping me the way that you do. I mean, you have stepped into some huge shoes, and you do so well. So, it's a sunny day. It looks like it's warm, so go out and get your cars detailed and have some fun. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for supporting and caring about and for the Grand Rapids Public Schools. Have a great morning, and thank you so much. Okay, now we get to go. Okay. That was it. Oh.